Whenever I was 16 years old, I got the chance to go, in the U.S., we have this student ambassador program that President Eisenhower started called People to People. And whenever I was 16, I got the chance to go on a people-to-people trip to Europe. From like June 1st to June 20th or something like that of 2008, I got to go we landed in Paris and we ended in Athens, and we hit everywhere in between, basically. So the first Catholic church that I ever stepped foot in was actually Notre Dame in Paris. And that was kind of like my first encounter with the beauty of it, which was really cool. But yeah, and then later on we did go to Rome, and afterwards I asked Tyler, who eventually became my godfather. Tyler was this girl's older brother too. So I was like, Tyler, what was that? Can you explain that to me? And he was like, oh yeah, well that's, that piece of bread that the priest was holding up became actually Jesus. And I'm like, yeah, but y'all don't believe that because that's kind of crazy. And he's like, no, we believe that. That is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ physically present. And I was just like, wow. Okay, so what now? Well, now we go get pizza. I was like, okay, cool. So, the community was great, and I kept coming back. And then, I kind of started feeling this pull, like, maybe I should. No, I can't. Catholics are crazy, but these are good people. No, but they're crazy. I can't convert.
Do you remember your first experience of God? Was it like St. Paul's radical discovery on the road to Damascus, or was it a gentle revelation like the disciples on the road to Emmaus? We each have our own unique conversion stories. Yet we follow the same path, the path to the cross, and the call to evangelization in our own way, in our own life journeys. This week, we take a look at an interview I conducted in November with Kyle Whittington, a father of 5, an American Air Force veteran, and the founder and main organizer of the Catholic Creator Conference in Steubenville, Ohio. And this May, it will be the 3rd Catholic Creator Conference. How did his call to Jesus and the Catholic Church become a mission to digital evangelization and bringing other digital disciples together to speak about Jesus and take the culture back for Christ? Thank you very much for joining us this week. Sisters in Christ, thank you and God bless. Hello and welcome to the Veil Number podcast. And this week we are celebrating St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland, who converted the country from paganism towards Christianity. And we're going to be continuing on the theme of conversion. And we're going to be looking at the conversion story of Kyle Whittington, the founder and organizer of the Catholic Creator Conference. And whatever you may be hearing from social media right now about the conference, it's about 2 months before the conference. And there has been some chatter about it, some controversy. But please have an open mind and let's hear what Kyle has to say. Let's hear his own story of how he came to Christ, how he came to the Catholic Church, and why this conference is such an important endeavor, such an important gathering of Catholics who want to be digital missionaries to spread the gospel. And I wish you a blessed St. Patrick's Day. And as we all know, it's not just about green beer. We're celebrating the patron saint of Ireland, a formidable saint who has brought many, many conversions. And we ask him to intercede for us on this day, on his feast day. And please do have a listen to our podcast episode. Mr. Kyle Whittington, here's his story. Thank you and God bless.
Hello and welcome to the Veil and Armor podcast. This is your host, Sheila Nonato. I'm a stay-at-home mom and a freelance Catholic journalist. Seeking the guidance of the Holy Spirit and the inspiration of Our Lady, I strive to tell stories that inspire, illuminate, and enrich the lives of Catholic women to help them in living out our vocation of raising the next generation of leaders and saints.
Please join us every week on the Veil and Armor podcast, where stories come alive through a journalist's lens and mother's heart.
So welcome, Sisters in Christ, to Veil and Armor podcast. And we have a very special guest, Kyle Whittington, the organizer, the brain, the one who came up with the Catholic Creator Conference. He's a Catholic genius, in my opinion. Just bringing all these brilliant minds together who want to evangelize for Christ. Would you like to start off with a prayer, please?
Sure. Why don't you go ahead and lead?
Okay. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. And I just wanted to introduce listeners to Kyle and pardon my reading. So Kyle Whittington grew up in a rural town in Oklahoma, and he converted to the Catholic faith at 18. He went to Franciscan University of Steubenville, where he met his wife, Julia. And after running out of money after 2 semesters, he joined the U.S. Air Force. So thank you for your service, sir.
Mhm.
He was there for 10 years. Almost by accident, he started a YouTube channel and started connecting with Catholics on YouTube. In 2024, he and his business partner, Drew Lowen, is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, Lowen.
Lowen, launched the Catholic Creator Conference. He currently lives in Steubenville, Ohio with his wife and 5 children, where he now works full-time on planning the next conferences and consulting with creators and apostolates on social media strategy. Okay, so my family and I were there, specifically me, because I was the one registered, but my family came along to that conference last year, and my kids have not stopped talking about Steubenville. They want to go back, and I'm like, okay, it's a great place, but yeah, we live in Canada. So, but
Yeah.
anyway, but now you're like converting them to America. Can you tell us, first of all, let's start off with the conference. Like, where did this idea come from? How did this all come about?
Yeah, so it actually kind of started off with that in-person debate that Matt Fradd hosted between Gavin Ortland and Trent Horn. At the time, I had, was running a very small YouTube channel, but I'd already connected with some people like Noah Braden, Swan Sona, Braden Cook, who runs the Catechumen. I'd already been kind of interacting with those guys online, and a lot of us wanted to go to this debate, and it was great. So we went, and it was a fun time. Like, the debate itself was fine. But what was really cool was just hanging out with our online friends, and it was a great time. And at this time it was what was that, like March of 2023? And yeah, and whenever we did that, it was just like, man, this was such a good time. We were living in St. Louis at the time, and I'd kind of had some hopes and dreams of possibly moving to St. Louis, but we hadn't made or to Steubenville, but we hadn't made the decision yet. And later that year, we moved. In November that year, we moved to Steubenville, and I was a remote worker at the time, and it was great. And I started, finding myself hoping that, like, man, I wish Matt would put on another one of those things, because that was really fun hanging out with the YouTubers. And then I just got to thinking, like, why do I need to wait on Matt to do this? I can just put together an event myself. And, the original idea was it was going to be a weekend with the boys at the Cigar Lounge, and maybe 12 people would show up if we did really, really well. And it was just, we weren't going to have any speakers. We weren't going to have any programming. I definitely wasn't paying for food. And, we'd just all show up at Chestertons and hang out for the weekend. And I thought, hey, that's going to be a great time. Father John Brown, he's like in the comment section of almost every Catholic channel. He's the president of the Jesuit high school down in New Orleans. He like came on as the chaplain, and it just kind of like through an act of divine providence, he was able to make it that first year, and I thought that was awesome. And then, I was living in Steubenville. Matt Fradd was living here at the time, and I asked him, like, hey, Matt, you're probably going to be here anyway. Would you mind doing a Q&A for us? We're not going to, you don't have to prepare anything. Just come here and have a great time with us and answer some questions, and it'll be great. And he was like, sure. And I was super excited about that. We didn't have a lot of traction. We didn't have a lot of advertising, but then Matt offered. He said, hey, Kyle, do you want me to advertise this thing? And I was like, sure, thanks, Matt. And he's like, yeah, just make the graphic, and I'll post it on my Instagram and YouTube community, and it'll be great. Well, we did that, and next thing you know, the applications, because from the very beginning we always we always made it applications because we didn't want just random people showing up. It was for creators. And the applications just started pouring in, and I was just blown away by like how many people were coming in and doing all this stuff. And next thing you know, Catholic Answers is on the phone with me trying to say like, hey, we think this thing's going to be big in 5 years, and we want to be able to say we've been a part of it from the very beginning. And I was just like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And we came together at the St. Paul Center in July of 2023 or 2024, excuse me. And it was it was it was amazing. Just we just wanted to get everybody together and like have some good authentic community. And part of it was to just like put out the fire of like the toxic dumpster fire that is the Catholic media space, at least on the social media space. And just have people interact with each other and like actually have a chance to become friends. And it worked. We watched some conflicts get squashed. It's amazing what happens whenever you're actually interacting with a person and not just text on a screen. And it was just really, really, really good. We, you went to the second one, and now we're in the midst of having the third. So yeah.
That's amazing. And yeah, just talk to me about, so you were saying about, text on the screen,
Mm-hmm.
and there can be a bunch of Twitter, or I guess X wars going
Sure.
on here and there, right? But I was listening to your interview with Keith Nestor. So you're talking about when you have the person in front of you, it's harder to insult them,
Right.
right? And so there's this sort of component where you bring like people together in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
How important is that, especially for Catholic evangelization? And you don't need to be doing Catholic content to
Right.
come to the conference, right? You can be just a Catholic and doing, videos about, I don't know, golf or something like that.
Sure.
But how important is that component of like actually meeting people?
Well, I mean, it's we've all heard the phrase, oh, it's great to finally put a face to the name. If you think about the bad guys from like G.I. Joe and Star Wars and stuff like that, what do all those bad guys have in common? The troops that get slaughtered by the thousands and you cheer while you do it. Well, you never get to see their faces. Like that's actually a very intentional, like artistic choice. Is the face is obscured and so is the humanity. And whenever the humanity is obscured, you can be as evil as you want and you can cheer because it doesn't matter because those aren't people. It's not going to register at your lizard brain that that's a human being. That he might just had a very entertaining death, but if you don't think about it for a little bit, in that universe, like that person would have been born, would have been raised by parents, would have had siblings, would have had hopes and dreams. And, it's like, okay, but then Luke Skywalker cuts him in half and we're supposed to laugh about it. It's actually like a very like tragic thing once you like really zoom in on it and you're like actually confronted with the humanity. But so it's kind of the same thing with Twitter. Like you're not really interacting with a person, you're interacting with words on a screen, and that can really inflame the passions and you can get kind of crazy. But whenever, as we like to say, when you're within strangling distance of somebody, you are confronted in an inescapable way with the humanity of the other that you're interacting with here. And that's just kind of what we wanted to do. We wanted to create this environment where that reality is apparent and inescapable. And I'm not saying that like tense conversations didn't happen. They absolutely did. We just wanted to create an environment where you could actually have those tense conversations in a productive way.
Right, absolutely. And so social media can be toxic. Well, it can be a blessing and a curse. So you're trying to make it go the other way, the blessing part.
Right.
And so you were in Rome too, right? And you met other
Yes.
creators, influencers, and you were at a mass with the Pope. Is this correct?
So the mass was celebrated by Cardinal Tagle, but Pope Leo did show up after the mass, and he gave. You can Google this; it's a great read. His address to the digital influencers, which was beautiful. I think it's a very good address that he gave. And my big reaction to that was, my jaw was on the floor because I feel like whenever it comes to social media, the past two popes have cared. Pope Leo gets it, which like he both cares and gets it, and I think that's a wonderful. I don't want to call it a change. It's a wonderful development. So
Awesome. And I think today he has like some sort of video conference or interview
mhm.
with EWTN. I think it was earlier, or
Yes.
like happening
So
right
he's
now. Yeah.
I think it was 45 minutes, so it ended as of this recording, like
Okay.
45 minutes ago. But yeah, no, Katie McGrady was moderating a conversation with Pope Leo XIV at the NCYC, which is like the National Catholic Youth Conference in Indianapolis. I think they had like 20,000 teens or something like that, and Pope Leo was just answering questions. And I didn't watch it. I don't know how it went. But this is actually kind of, we've already announced this, but that same woman who was moderating that conversation, kind of managing it, is going to be one of our keynote speakers at the Creator Conference next year, specifically speaking on how to engage the institutional church. So we're super excited to have Katie on board, and yeah, I can't wait to hear more of her wisdom. But yeah.
Okay. So you gave us one of the speakers. Who else is on the lineup that you know of at the moment?
Ooh, okay. So we're still kind of hunting down speakers as of this recording. But we have um Mike Pantile, another Canadian, um, and Keith Nestor, that are coming back. They're going to be leading a men only session, specifically speaking about like authentic masculinity in the among Catholics in the media space. I was actually just talking to Drew about this last night, where he says, I'm not sure that makes a lot of sense to have it, and I said, well, of course it does, because our overarching goal, our long term goal with all of this, is to put Catholics and the church back into the driver's seat of the culture. That means taking over in every facet. That means unseating the Andrew Tates and like all these like really toxic like oh, this is what a real man is, and they just talk about like the most childish things. Um so we're inviting these two pretty manly men to come in and talk about like authentic masculinity and what that actually means. And so it's gonna be a good time. Let's see here. Past that, we have who else can I announce? Well, I'll tell you what. If you guys are diligent enough to be watching this channel, you get privilege to some insider information that you're not going to find anywhere else. Um, we're going to have Evan Rogest come do a session on YouTube strategy. We're going to have Dino Antonuccio, who that's a name that nobody's ever heard, but he runs the Twitter account or X account called The Art of Purpose. He's going to be coming to talk about X/Twitter strategy. And we have Franco Fernandez, Franco Aurelio, um, coming and talking about Instagram strategy. And then there's a few more invitations that are kind of like out, and we're waiting to hear back, but we're going to be adding even more to that lineup.
Okay. Wow. Amazing. Thank you for that. And it's going to be at Steubenville University. So last year it was at St. Paul Center.
Yep. Yep. So it's effectively across the street. So across
Yeah.
the street and up the hill. So it's going to be at Franciscan University from May 28th through the 31st in 2026. And yeah, it's going to be at Franciscan. It's going to be a great time. Last year we were limited to only 80 because of just like the space constraints. I mean, you were there, so like it was pretty cozy at times with everybody there. This year we're going to be at the new Christ the Teacher conference hall, and so we're going to actually have enough for like 250 attendees. Um, and then with additional, like we also set aside an additional 50 tickets for sponsors. So it's gonna be a lot bigger, a lot better. Last year we added the addition of having 3 professional studios for any of the attendees to come and like record interviews, podcasts, whatever. Um, and this year, next year, we're gonna have 5 studios. So, so if anybody watching this is interested in sponsoring, get in contact. If you want your name on one of these studios, I think we added it up. Like all the content that was generated in these studios it's currently up to like 700,000 views, or something crazy like that. So, if you want a piece of that pie, it's going to be much bigger. It's going to be much bigger, much better. I'm actually kind of disappointed with those numbers because we didn't really have like a real content plan. So it's something we're going to do this time is we're going to be a little bit more intentional about the content that we create, because we absolutely want these things to perform well. Because you can do the good and virtuous thing, and that's good, and in a way it's its own reward. But if we want to actually like impact and take over the culture, we need to be doing it with excellence in a way that's optimized for the platform, so that way it reaches as many souls as possible.
Awesome. So you're basically blowing it up. You're
Oh yeah.
250 plus 50, so 300. Where's the website if people want to apply?
Yeah, so it's CatholicCreatorConference.com. Pretty easy to remember. It's a long name, but it's easy to remember. So CatholicCreatorConference.com. Creator is one singular. It's not creators. But yeah, just go on, check it out. It is open to anybody who is a digital creator that has published their first piece of content before November 1st, 2025. So, we don't have a follower like threshold. It's I don't care, if you've been posting for 3 years and never broke 200 subscribers, that's fine. Like we care more about that you're actually putting in the work, putting in the reps, and that you're looking to connect. So it is only available to Catholics. So we actually have a part of the application process. We have like a statement of faith that you have to agree to. So you have, and it's basically the Nicene Creed and saying that you also submit to all the teachings of the church. So including all of the church councils and stuff. So pretty basic stuff. A set of a contest. Can wait outside in the rain, but or something far more charitable than that. But yeah, that's basically it. So fill out your application, and it's literally just to make sure that you actually meet the criteria. We're not going to be judging you on the quality of your content, because I mean part of the reason people are coming here is so they can learn to get better. And if you were already it's like, oh man, some of these guys come and have like millions of subscribers. Well, if you had millions of subscribers, I'd probably be paying you to show up. So like, it's okay. Like, don't think that like you're not one of us or whatever. And we also emphasize that too, of like, um, we had some creators, specifically, some people who have some like 6-figure followings hanging out with a dude who had just barely started his creator journey. He had a double-digit number of subscribers, and but they welcomed him as one of their own. Because at the end of the day, like, I like to think that if your follower count comes up at your judgment, it probably won't be for a good reason. So it's like, we're all people here. We're all um we're just trying to all figure it out. And we try to like make sure that the playing field is very level, and as much as possible, we even like have our speakers come as attendees as well. So even then it's like, yeah, come interact with everybody. Don't turn your nose up at anybody. And if you are turning your nose up at somebody, we'll talk about that.
Amazing. Yeah, in the summer, my husband and I were looking at each other after I told him all the things that happened at the conference. He's like, "Can you believe this? Like, it's the Catholic who's who." Pretty much starstruck, to be honest. Sometimes I was even afraid to go up to people because I'm like, "Is that really who this
Yeah.
person is?" I was like, but they're so like the people I've met are so genuine, so humble,
Hmm.
and just yeah, it was just to be honest, it was a blessing to be there and to see how they, to hear how they think, how they work, and most of all, how they love Jesus.
Hmm.
They really want to show that love to others, and not in a like hammering somebody over the head with
Right.
with the Bible.
Yeah.
If that's your thing, I don't know. I guess that might work for you. But
Well, I mean, it's one of those things of like, spreading the gospel, yes, does include preaching and like sharing the good news with somebody, but like sharing God's love also looks like, hey, we're going to McDonald's. Do you want to come with us? And, just little things like that. That's also showing God's love as well. And, you can't really do that online, which is why you got to get everybody together.
yes, amazing, amazing. And so before I get sidetracked, because I wanted to get that conference info in
Mhm.
there in case people wanted to apply, because it
Yeah.
was really amazing, maybe even life changing, to be honest. And thank you for that. We want to get to your conversion story. I was gonna say vocation story, but I
Oh,
guess it's
sure.
kind of the same thing. So you grew up Methodist, is that correct?
On paper,
On
yes.
paper.
I can count on both hands how many times I actually went to a Methodist church, but it was I mean, I was never baptized. I was actually baptized Catholic. But I think my parents were on paper Methodists, if that means anything. So, but primarily I grew up just kind of bouncing around the various Protestant churches in my town of 600 people in Oklahoma. We had two Baptist churches, a few Pentecostal churches, and then various Pastor Jim's Bible churches would pop up depending on the year, and then they would close and whatever. But it's yeah. So Pentecostal was what my grandmother. So from like by the time we until I was like 12 years old, I went to a Pentecostal church, and then from there I went to like the Church of Christ a little bit, and I really didn't understand that there was really any like theological difference. It was just church is church.
So what was your road to Emmaus? Like, where did Jesus and the Catholic Church, when it was not part of your life and all of a sudden it's like, hey,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
what
so
happened?
whenever I was 16 years old, I got the chance to go. In the U.S., we have this student ambassador program that President Eisenhower started called People to People. And whenever I was 16, I got the chance to go on a people to people trip to Europe. So from like June 1st to June 20th or something like that of 2008, I got to go spend. We landed in Paris and we ended in Athens, and we hit everywhere in between, basically. So the first Catholic church that I ever stepped foot in was actually Notre Dame in Paris. Um, and that was kind of like my first like encounter with the beauty of it, which was really cool. Um, but yeah, and then like later on, we did go to Rome. So I remember sitting in the Vatican, and I was having a rough time because I was 16 and a whiny teenager, and I could find myself like just kind of griping at myself, or the situation in my head. And I kind of had this like thought of like, I'm in a country right now, Vatican City, that's completely dedicated to the service of God, and I'm being like, and I'm acting like a petulant child right now. So it was a kind of like I was like, okay, kind of straighten up. And then that was kind of really my only like good encounter with the Catholic Church, because the only thing that I really knew about the Catholic Church was they called priests father, and that was bad. And like that was it. That's all I knew. And then I had some vague ideas of like other stuff. It wasn't really any I didn't really know much. Well then, um I did get to know a a cute Catholic girl that I went to school with, who was smarter than me, which is going to sound arrogant, but that's actually really saying something, because at the time I was the academic team captain. I was on the all-state team. We were state champions multiple times. And this girl was actually smarter than me. So like, she's cute, she's smart, she's Catholic. That's kind of weird. Well, after I get back from Europe, I get invited to church to go with her. And I'm just like, well, I'm kind of a world traveler, and I'm very worldly, and I'm very well-rounded, and I'm happy to come visit your churches as a tourist, but as a participant, ooh, That's a bridge too far. I don't think I can. I don't think I can do that. And then she said something, and I'll never forget this. She said something that completely changed the whole dynamic. She said, "Kyle, there's going to be free pizza there." And I was sold. I was completely sold. I was like, okay, well, you know what? I'm open-minded. I can do this. But I'll be sure to remain in my convictions. So, I get from a lot of Protestants, it's like, oh, you were emotionally swayed. It's like, yeah, I was. That's actually usually how things start. Is they start off superficial, and then you go into a deeper level. So, but I kept going back. The community there was great. Went to my very first mass, and I was captivated from start to finish. And after that, like during the consecration, like I could tell that something like was sacred was happening, and I heard the bells go off, and I had no idea what was going on. I thought it was a phone in like the sacristy that was ringing, and I was just like, what is going on here? What? And afterwards, I asked Tyler, who eventually became my godfather. Um, like Tyler was this girl's older brother too. So I was like, Tyler, what was that? Can you explain that to me? And he was like, oh yeah, well that's that piece of bread that the priest was holding up became actually Jesus. And I'm like, yeah, but yeah, like y'all don't like believe that because that's kind of crazy. And he's like, no, we believe that. That is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ physically present. And I was just like, oh wow. Okay, so what now? Well, now we go get pizza. I was like, okay, cool. So, the community was great, and I kept coming back. And then, I kind of started feeling this pull like, maybe I should. No, I can't. Catholics are crazy, but these are good people. No, but they're crazy. I can't convert. And then eventually I was watching, I don't even remember the name of the comedian, but the, um, the, some Comedy Central special, and the comedian makes a priest joke. And I remember watching this thing before, and while I don't think I found it like particularly funny the first time, I was like downright offended this time. I turned off the TV. I was home alone, and I turned off the TV, and I was so angry that I like ran into the kitchen to like go wash dishes or something like that. Like I was that upset. And I after that I was just like, oh no. Oh no. Okay. All right. Well, no matter what, if I have to, there's no denying it. I've already converted internally. I already consider myself Catholic, and then it's just a matter of like formalizing it. I asked Tyler later. It's like, hey Tyler, what does it take to become Catholic? And he's like, well, you got to start going to mass on Sunday mornings. And I was like a strictly evenings only guy, and I was just like, oh well, never mind, because that's too big of a it's too big of an ask. And then eventually, like, no, I'm gonna have to do this. And I tell my mom, and that's also kind of a funny story because um, she goes, we were watching The Big Bang Theory. This was like Lent of 2009, so this is when we all still thought that Big Bang Theory was funny. And I I asked her, or her friend calls, she pauses the DVR. And for some reason, I was just like, I have to tell her now or it's never. And for some reason, it was that moment. So after she gets off the phone and before she could resume the TV, I was like, hey, mom. Yeah, what's up? I think I need to become Catholic. You would have thought I was coming out of the closet because she was just like, okay, we're going to get through this. Okay, well, at least you're not becoming a Mormon. And um, she gave me two conditions. She says, okay, you can do this, but you have to wait until you're 18, and you have to get educated on it, because I'm not going to let you just walk into this blind. So you actually have to study what they believe and everything. And I'm like, well, this is Lent of 2009, so the next year is whenever I turned 18. I was like, well, mom, I have the church. You and the church are actually on the same page, because they're not going to let me come in until Easter of next year, and they're gonna make me take classes. So we did that, and so at the Easter Vigil of 2010, I was brought into the church, and so it's been a little over 15 years now, and it's been easily the best decision I've ever made.
Oh, powerful, powerful stuff.
Mhm.
And so when did you meet your wife?
So
Oh, that, yeah.
that was less than a year after that. So it's funny because whenever I tell my conversion story, and I always say it's like, oh, it started with a cute girl. People always like look at my wife and like, oh, is this her? It's like, no, no. Um, uh, that other girl did her own thing, and then praise be to God, we both did not end up with each other. So so anyway, that happened because let's see here, how okay. After I graduated high school, I took a semester off to work, and then that following January, I started at Franciscan. And within it didn't take more than just a few weeks before I met Julia. Um, we were I didn't know anybody there. Like all the people from my parish that were at Franciscan were kind of older than me, so it was kind of weird to hang out with them. Um, so I was just kind of like making my own friends, finding my own community, and I saw some girl that I had met in orientation that was sitting at the calf, and I saw that there was a seat next to her, and I sit down next to her, and Julia is sitting across the table from me. Well, a couple of nights before this interaction, I had been helping a friend of mine try to fix his computer, and there was nothing I could do. And I told him, "Well, man, you're gonna call the manufacturer, see if they can fix it under the warranty or something like that." So back to I'm sitting in front of Julia. She, my buddy walks up and just triumphantly announces, with no context for anybody else on the table, he triumphantly announces, "I'm getting it fixed for free." And I high five him. I think that's a great deal because I know exactly what he's talking about. His laptop's getting fixed. I'm happy. He doesn't have to spend money. And he, we kind of go and talk a little bit, and then I notice across the table Julia's over there just turning pink, just kind of giggling, and I just kind of give her this look of like, what? And she just squeaks out, "I didn't hear the it." So what she heard was, "I'm getting fixed for free." And I just kind of rewind the conversation back in my head to where her statement made sense, and I thought it was hilarious. I almost fall out of my chair. I was laughing so hard, and we just kind of hit it off from there. And so we dated for a couple of years because I had to. I ran out of money. My Protestant parents weren't willing to pay the $30,000 a year it took to stay at Franciscan or whatever it was at the time. So I joined the Air Force just to like, cause I knew that Julie and I were going to get married, and it's like, okay, I need to be able to provide for a family. So I joined the military in order to do that. And it was, yeah, no, it was a great time.
And again, thank you for your service. And
Mhm.
you in Afghanistan, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a very cushy deployment. So if any like Army infantry or Marines are watching this, they're gonna be like, "That's not a real deployment," and they're kind of correct. But so I was only there for 90 days. I spent 45 days in Kandahar, 45 days in Bagram. So in the Air Force, I put bombs and missiles on F-16s. So for the first 6 years of my career, and then the latter four, I was a network engineer. So but, whenever I was working on the F-16s, fighter jets whenever I was in Afghanistan, it was a great time, you know, but, people say like, "Oh, was it tough?" And I'm like, "Listen, the most combat that I saw while I was over there was whenever I was playing Call of Duty." So, yeah, it's the most fun I never wanna have again.
And
So
so you're no longer in the military, or I guess.
no, no, I'm very bearded now. I got out, so I went in 2012. May 1st, 2012 was my first day of boot camp, and then I got out April 30th, 2022. So I've been out for a little over 3 years now.
So that military career that you had, did that have any impact at all on your faith journey?
It was tough. I'll be honest. So whenever I was active duty, there was basically no Catholic community whatsoever. I mean, I still went to mass on Sundays and holy days of obligation for the most part. And but like I was working nights a lot, so like it was really hard to have like Catholic friends from church. It was tough. It was kind of one of those things of sometimes at times it seemed that the most I could do is just stay Catholic and just keep doing what the church prescribes, like pray before meals, um, go to mass on Sundays. I kind of got involved with a youth group for a little bit. After I got married, that was just too much to keep track of. So I did that for like 2 years while I was in. And then, yeah, but then like after I got married, things got a little easier. Because it's nice to be able to, come home to somebody. Um, and we started having kids shortly after that. But, um, yeah. So it was tough. I really kind of got into this like crazy Catholic mode after I got out of active duty and I joined the Air National Guard in St. Louis. That's where we found a really solid Institute of Christ the King oratory at St. Francis de Sales Oratory. That's kind of like where things like really picked up for me, and I really started taking my faith seriously.
And if you can tell us, you moved to Steubenville. So for people who don't know Steubenville, it's like I don't want to say Disneyland because that's not really. It's more like, like you saw Notre Dame. That's your first capital.
Hmm.
Kind of like that, right? Like the pillar of France. I feel like that's the pillar of America, to be honest. It's like
Oh
there's
yeah.
spiritual richness there. I mean, Dr.
Hmm.
Scott Hahn is there, St. Paul Center and Steubenville, Franciscan University. Yeah, tell us, like, is it worth the hike to go and go to visit Steubenville?
Yeah, I think everything that you heard from Matt Fradd is true, including the bad stuff. Yes, there are meth houses. Yep. There's a lot of drugs. There's crime here. I don't want to undersell that. But the community here is incredibly strong. So I live at the end of a cul-de-sac, and I just have all but like two of my neighbors are Catholic, and they have children. And my my second youngest is turning 4 in just a couple weeks, and he has a best friend that lives like 2 doors down that was born like 2 days before him. So we're gonna celebrate their birthdays jointly. So, it's beautiful. We've got the cigar lounge here where like for men can just go and hang out with men without like any prior scheduling or appointments. You just walk in there. Like if you got a lunch break, go down there and just relax and get to talk with men about things that actually matter. And the Leo's, the coffee shop here is also fantastic. Leo's was actually one of the things that kind of made me really want to move here because you go into like a Starbucks or something like that, you overhear conversations, and it's talking about so and so in their soccer game, or oh yeah, well, yeah, I did hear that from her, but I was under the impression, you hear conversations like that. You go into Leo's and the conversations that you overhear is, well, I don't know about that because Aquinas says, and just stuff like that. And the university here really has a massive impact on the culture of the town. Um, and at this point, most of the Catholics here are not affiliated with the university. It's a great place for young families. You can find a house here for less than $300,000. I mean, heck, you could find a house here for less than $100,000, and it comes with a free crack lab. But like um, it's a very poor area. If you have the ability to make a living remotely, it's a great place to live. Great place to raise a family. Um, and some people ask me like, well, what's in Steubenville? Like, whenever I'm there, what should I go see? And I said, well, there's not a lot of what in Steubenville. I mean, there's a few things that you can go see, but there's not a lot of what. What makes it really special is the who. So it's not what you should go see, it's who you should go see. So, like, if you're a man, come to Chestertons. Come, buy a cigar, smoke it in the lounge. It's going to be a great time. Go grab a coffee at Leo's. Go check out the pottery shop. That is run by a local potter here who's very, very Catholic. The bookstore here owned by a Catholic, and just go in, just talk, interact with these people, because like there's so much. In my town of 600 people in Oklahoma, we were talking to somebody who'd lived there her whole life, and she was like in her 80s, and she was just lamenting the condition of the town. And she said it's like the worst part of it is that people just don't help each other anymore. And she lived through the Great Depression, and she'd seen how neighbors help neighbors, and she says you don't that doesn't happen anymore. Everybody's just in their houses and alone. And in Steubenville, we kind of I'm not going to say that it's like a perfect utopia, but you have a lot more people outside. You have a lot more neighbors that actually know neighbors. The word neighbor actually means something whenever you go to church, because you're going to mass with the people who live next to you. The parish actually kind of means something here. And it's also kind of a place that, yeah, there's a bunch of movers and shakers here. And, these movers and shakers work together, and then like we do some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, and it looks unassuming when you go in there and you look at, hey, where are the attractions?
Right.
Yeah, bells and whistles, all the crazy lights and stuff like that. But it's like it's deeper, right? That's
Mhm.
superficial. Like even Notre Dame, if you look at the surface of it, beautiful, beautiful. But the heart of Notre Dame is the faith of the people.
Mhm.
People worshiping there, and God, obviously, God's there, Jesus is there.
Right.
But it's not just the facade, right? It's the interior. It's like what's keeping that place alive. It's the people. And I think that's what we saw at Steubenville and meeting
Yeah.
all of the creators there. And let's go to the cigar shop, Chesterton,
Okay.
because it's sort of you're talking about Christian masculinity. Um, and what was happening there during the conference? Why was it important for men to gather there? What is it about now in the culture? There seems to be this thing about toxic masculinity, right?
Yeah.
The counter to that.
Yeah. Well, so there's toxic masculinity, and which is just it's a reactive overcorrection from like this idea that men are just defective women. And you kind of see men get treated like that in schools and stuff like that. Of like, hey, boys don't play rough, and stuff like that. So, um, to try to get some of this back, you kind of like the temptation is to go way past what's actually good and moderate. And, next thing you know, you're following the Andrew Tates of the world, who are, just doing all sorts of horrible things that make the feminists angry. But it's just like, well, they should also make every Christian of goodwill angry as well. So it's like, just because you're on the same side of the bad guys or the bad girls on this issue, that doesn't mean that you're correct. So Chesterton's, and like, I mean, technically speaking, women are allowed in there. It's not like women are disallowed. It's just most women don't want to go smoke a cigar with a bunch of dudes, quite frankly. And that's fine. Um, but they kind of just created a space that they thought that the Chestertons, the Tolkiens, the C.S. Lewises, that they would have gone and hung out and had their conversations. Um, so, Chesterton was a big cigar smoker. A cigar is not like a cigarette, which is it's very it's just to get your dose of nicotine. It's not a leisurely thing. You see somebody outside of a Waffle House at 3 a.m. smoking a cigarette. He's not doing it to relax. He's doing it because he needs to just cope with his existence. So A cigar, on the other hand, I mean, it takes 1 to 2 hours, depending on the size, to smoke one. So whenever you light that thing up, you are committing to sitting down, slowly enjoying it, to interact with the men who are around you. So there's no TVs there. It's specifically to build community. And we've seen some beautiful things there. There's actually a guy, local business owner, came in who um he's now in OCIA. He's becoming Catholic because he showed up, just had conversations with good Catholic men who are normal and enjoy the same things that he does. It's like spreading the gospel is great, but hey, this guy wants to talk about how the Pittsburgh Steelers did last night, and that's also, good to like connect with him on. So, it's just a really good time, and it's a really good place for like men to be men, and like we can kind of let our guard down a little bit, and then we can also, like, every man knows this, and some women might know it too if they ever get to listen to men that don't know that they're there. Men will always interact differently with each other, but the moment that, you throw a lady in the mix, and I don't think this is a bad thing, I think it's actually very appropriate, the dynamic changes, you know? And not even that, like, "Okay, guys, quit swearing," although that's usually part of it. It's, the dynamic just shifts, and, Chesterton's just kind of gives that place like, in a way that encourages virtues, and, you know, it's more like how, like I said earlier, how, like, Chesterton, Tolkien, Lewis would have talked, and less like the locker room.
So letting men kind of let your guard down a little bit,
Mhm.
but also you don't have to apologize for being men or man.
Right.
It's okay. You can be a man.
Right. Well, and I mean, not obviously there's exceptions to this, but in general, at least, in my experience with my wife, she's far more emotion first. So whenever I'm talking to her, I always have to keep that in mind because I can't just come in and just go, well, we're not going to do that because that doesn't make any sense for this reason, this reason, this reason. Well, that doesn't work because it's like, wow, I just came off as a massive jerk, and that's horrible. But like when you're with the men, it's like, well, you can just kind of be a little bit more blunt, and you can get to the heart of the matter without worrying about people getting offended. And if somebody does get offended, it's like, oh, my bad, bro. I didn't mean to do that. And it's usually pretty good after that. So, um, yeah, so that's just part of the dynamic too, and like I said, like that, I'm just making generalities, not saying this is across the board. I don't know who your audience is, so I'm not trying to offend anybody.
No. It's Christian masculinity and the feminine genius. That's sort of our two
Yeah.
topics. But I can see what you mean. Actually, I had an argument with my husband about this yesterday because he was telling me about exactly what you said, that women, we do tend to go towards the emotional, and the men are more factual. And I misunderstood what my husband said, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry to my husband because I'm trying to make up for what I said yesterday.
Yeah.
But I do understand what you mean, and being with people who understand what you mean can be also just like, you want to relax, right? You don't want to always be,
Right.
I have to pick my words. I have to know how to approach this person. You're just there, you're hanging out. You love Jesus. You love, you
Right.
want to debate civil discourse without, people watching you. Like, cause I feel like Twitter, X, all that, social media, people are always watching, right? So you always have to like, what should I say? But maybe in this space with, men who, want to be amongst each other, develop that
Mhm.
camaraderie, they can kind of like be themselves. Like, honestly, is that sort of kind of how Chesterton's
Yeah.
biology works? Like you guys can
Yeah.
kind of hang out, you can maybe say things that, that, is on your mind, but maybe, like, it's not something that other people might
Yeah.
think is, I don't know, kosher,
One
Yeah.
one of my favorite activities to do at Chesterton's is to go there because if I'm toying around with an idea in my head, I can just go to Chestertons and I can say, "Hey, so I've been considering this." And, it's like, "Oh, I've been toying with the idea of oh, the idea of Twitter as Plato's cave. Like Twitter is the wall in Plato's cave where like all you see are the shadows of an artificial light, from an artificial light source. Um, and you can kind of tease that out a little bit. And then you also got like other just brilliant guys that hang out there and be like, well, I think you've got this right, but you're dead wrong here, or, something like that. Um, and, it's just really good to be able to do that in a way where like you can just assume that people are respecting you and that like, hey, I see what you're trying to say. Let me push back on this. Even like I agree with you overall, but I think this point is kind of weak. And, kind of treat it like a little bit of a debate club where somebody disagreeing with you is not hostility. And, it's not just Catholics that hang out here. We've got Orthodox folks that hang out there and we've got Protestants that come in occasionally and, it's just a really good time.
Absolutely. And finally, so I want to reassure the female viewers, those who want to maybe thinking about this conference, like, yeah, there's a place for you because I was
Oh
there.
yeah.
And I met Amber Rose, religious hippie,
Mhm.
Sarah Stock, so many other wonderful ladies there. And Leonardo's Cafe you were mentioning, it's
Mhm.
um it's like if you wanna be in Paris sitting outside or sipping your latte, that's the place, or inside,
Yeah.
obviously. But the one thing that I really liked about it was, when I was gonna pay for my latte, I saw a photo of the Pope, and I'm like, "You'll never see this at Starbucks. You'll never,
Yeah.
never." So it's like, wow, it feels like I'm home, like I can sit down, read my Bible or, whatever, listen to a podcast and, feel at
Mhm.
home. Sorry, just one second, my son is okay. Okay, he's gonna come here, say hello, Mr. Kyle. Mr. Kyle.
Hey, kiddo.
Remember Steubenville? He always talks about Steubenville and saying, "When are we?"
Ah,
So,
you gonna come to college here?
it's quite expensive.
Yes, it is.
We'll see how it goes. But
Yeah.
anyway. But yeah, so I just wanted to reassure, female viewers, yeah, if you wanna come, it's you're gonna feel welcome because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not
No, we
so much richness, so many diverse, people from different channels, like, doing
Mhm.
awesome things, and not just Catholic, right? So it's amazing.
Mhm. Yeah, no, one thing we're really big on is that, if we're going to take over the culture, if we're going to get back into the driver's seat, we need to be doing more than just apologetics. I mean, apologetics is great. Catholic Answers has been one of our strongest supporters since the very beginning. It's good. It's necessary. We need people to keep like coming up through the pipeline there to like take up that mantle. But that's not all a Catholic creator can do, Sarah Stock was there. Sarah Stock is like political commentary. Like and she's in that realm. Who else do we have? Oh, Master Samwise. He's probably no qualifiers my favorite YouTuber. I would never tell that to his face, and if you tell him I said it, I'm going to call you a liar. But he's amazing. He does like story analysis. And whenever you watch his videos, he never like denies the Catholic faith, but like he never says that he's Catholic. So he's transmitting these Catholic values in a way that like somebody who might be hostile to the Catholic faith would actually be receptive to hearing. And it's kind of like this pre-evangelistic, one of our keynote speakers, John Blevins. He's if you familiar with Fortnite streamers, he's Ninja's older brother. He plays Fortnite for a living, which is like a dumb video game. And yet he still managed to do it in a way that has gotten people to convert before. And so, we need to be in all corners of the earth, all corners of the media, all the good ones at least. And doing it better than everybody else. And whenever we can capture the hearts, minds, and imaginations of people, well, I mean, the soul's just going to follow after that.
Yes, and getting armored up spiritually for the cultural
Mhm.
wars, right? We don't wanna be
Yeah.
cowering in the corner and
Yeah.
wanna be able to be prepared. So, was there anything else you wanted to add? And tell us about the website again, please.
Oh, yeah. So CatholicCreatorConference.com. That's if you want to do that, just throw in the application is free. So, and like I said, we just want to see that you are a creator, that you are publishing content. The like one caveat is that like if you give me your Instagram page and I only see pictures of like your family and friends, like, well, that's not really a creator. I'd like to see you like doing some research and trying to like entertain or spread the good word or
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's kind of hard to define, but we know it when we see it. So, um, yeah, go out there, do it, and like, and if you miss the deadline and you felt a pull to like possibly you know go and start something.
Mhm.
Pray about it. One, it's the most dangerous thing for your the most dangerous thing for your soul in this realm is success. So if you are not praying, if you are not rooted in the faith, your soul will die. Like this will like spiritually kill you. So like it's not a joke. Pray, discern, and then give it a try. Um, and if you find you enjoy it, keep going. You'd be amazed about like just the little stuff that you can do. So go ahead and start after you've discerned and prayed about it. And, we'd love to see you in 2027 or
Yeah.
maybe something else next year that we've got cooking up that I'm not going to talk about.
And when is it again? Can you give us the date?
May 28th through the 31st.
Okay. And the deadline for the application?
Until we sell out. So, in theory, now I will say February 5th is when the early bird window closes. So right now, standard admission is 500 and VIP tickets are $750. On February 5th, they go up to $675 and $1,000. So don't. But if I'm going to be honest, I don't expect a single VIP ticket to be left by the time the early bird closes. And earlier this year, we sold out of the conference within a month of launching. So, if you are one of the privileged people who are watching and have stuck around for this long, your diligence is rewarded by me telling you the inside info of get in early because you will miss out if you don't. So, but anyway, that's
Yeah.
I think that's all
Yeah.
I've got.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's worth it. It's worth the drive to Steubenville, to be honest. Don't go to Disneyland. Go to Steubenville.
Yeah.
It's worth it. I brought my family and I was the only one who was participating and they were like swimming in the hotel. Like they just loved it. They loved it so much. We got to go to mass during the conference. Again, they love that too. So it's a great way to bring the family if you're thinking, what are they gonna do all day? There's stuff to do. There really is. So, anyway, thank you, Kyle, for your time. I really sincerely appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to the conference. And I hope there are going to be other listeners who are going to be coming. Hopefully I'll meet you there too. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, anyway, thank you so much again. And hello to Drew. And God bless you. Continued blessings to your work.
All right. Thanks, Sheila.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much, Sisters in Christ, for joining me in hearing that powerful radical conversion of Kyle Whittington, founder of the Catholic Creator Conference. And the conference is coming up at the end of May if you are interested in joining, CatholicCreatorConference.com. And I'm very excited to be bringing you more stories of conversion, including the story of Mrs. Tammy Peterson. This is sort of how this podcast has come together, thanks be to God, and the inspiration from my husband, the support of my husband, who said, why don't we take the mission to the digital mission fields? And so here we are, and I will be taking a look back at that very first interview before she announced publicly that she was going to be converting to the Catholic Church. And it is also in I believe it's our third episode, her very first media interview. And I'm humbled and honored to have been able to interview her and bring that story, and grateful for the Catholic Register newspaper in Toronto for publishing it, and for the many, many graces and blessings that Mrs. Peterson's story has brought. Thanks be to God. And how she continues in that journey, in that faith journey, in her prayer and in her podcast, spreading the good news of her faith and for her love of God and for having a heart for bringing that message of joy and truth to all who are listening to her podcast or who meet her when she does speaking engagements, including one in Toronto where she spoke at a Catholic school for girls in North York called Hawthorne School for Girls back in the fall. And thank you again for being part of this podcast. Please be assured of our prayers for you, and please say a prayer for us. Thank you, and God bless.
Happy New Year! Please pray for us. Step on that like button and smush that subscribe button. Please. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Veil and Armor podcast.
I invite you to share this with another Catholic mom today. Please subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel. And please spread the word. Let's be brave. Let's be bold. And be blessed together.